probability. And so we're going to learn about probability today. What is probability? Write this in your notes. It's the chance that some event will occur. And you hear a lot about probability in the real world. Here are some examples of how we use probability in everyday life. When you're talking about the weather, if they say there's a 10% chance of rain, that means there's a 10% chance that it will rain and a 90% chance that it won't rain. So 10% is not very much, right? So it's more likely that it's not going to rain. Then you have car accidents. 75% of new drivers have accidents within 2 years. Well, 75 is pretty close to all new drivers. So we're talking about teenage drivers. So that's pretty high, 75%. So that means only 25%, or 1 out of every 4 drivers, doesn't have an accident the first 2 years. Grades. 50% of students who study 30 minutes or more a night get A's or B's. So half, 50%, get A's and B's. Half do not that study. Of course, you have the lottery, and the odds of winning the state lottery, very, very, very small, but possible. And then you have the games of chance that we'll be talking about. You have cards, dice, spinners, all kinds of things that, you know, your chances of getting something just vary. So let's start by looking at cards. And it says the simple event is drawing a 10. It is the favorable outcome. So someone is holding up these 5 cards, and they're not facing you. And you want to draw a 10, okay? So the question is, write a ratio that compares the number of cards numbered 10 to the total number of cards. Well, there's 1, 2 10s out of 5. That's 10s out of cards. So the percent, it says what percent of the cards is number 10? Well, to get percent, we have to take this to 100. And 5 times 20 is 100. 2 times 20 is 40. So 40 out of 100 is 40%. And it's like saying each one of these cards is worth 20%. And then there's 2 10s, so it's 20 plus 20, which is 40%. And so the 5 cards represent the possible outcomes. So the possible outcomes are a 10, a 10, a 2, a 3, or a 6. And since there's more 10s, it's more probable that you'll draw a 10, but just at 40%, because you could draw a 2, which is 20%, or a 3, which is 20%, or a 6, which is 20%. So list the event and all the possible outcomes for each situation. So this is a spinner, and so my possible outcomes, I could get an A, a B, a C, or a D. This is called a die. We usually talk about dice, but dice is 2, so if you see the word die, that just means 1, or they might talk about this as a number cube. And what can happen whenever you roll a die or a dice is you could get a 1, or a 2, or a 3, or a 4, or a 5, or a 6. And then you have the stack of money, and what are the possibilities that you could pull from? Well, you couldn't pull a $50 because there's not one there. But you could pull a penny, or a dime, or a quarter, or a nickel. And your chances of drawing a nickel are 1 out of 4. So of this happening is 1 out of 4, which is 25%. And then, of course, this is a spinner. So my possible outcomes are the colors: green, red, yellow, purple, blue. And each one of those, since these are equal distance apart, each one of those is worth 1/5 because there's 5. So this is worth 20, this is worth 20, this is worth 20, this is worth 20, this is worth 20. So it's equally likely that you'll land on any one of these colors because they're all equal amounts. So go ahead and take a minute to pause the video and write down everything you see on the screen. And what this is this is a probability scale. And this tells you what is going to happen, what is impossible to happen, likely to happen, and certain to happen. And how it is on a percent, and as a fraction, and as a decimal. And this is whenever each outcome is likely to occur, and they are to occur at random. So draw this scale and draw all the information so that you have it to refer to. You can pause the video to do this. So let's look at what this is going to look like with some problems. Maria and Justin are rolling a number cube, like this one, to see who has to take out the trash. Maria rolled a 4. Justin wants to know how likely it is that he can beat Maria. What do you think his chances are beating Maria? So what are the outcomes if you roll a dice? You could roll a 1, you could roll a 2, you could roll a 3, 4, 5, 6. And the probability of an event is what's going to happen. So the probability of Maria rolling a 4, so the probability of Maria rolling a 4 is 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 1 to 6. 1 out of 6. Now, what is the likelihood of Justin winning? So Justin can win if he rolls anything other than a 4. So if he rolls a 1, a 2, a 3, a 5, or a 6. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 out of 6. So who is more likely to win? It's going to be Justin, because he can roll any of these numbers and win. Maria can only win if she rolls a 4. So on the probability scale, Justin would be about here, high percent, and Maria would be down here, low percent. Okay, so list the probability of landing on any of the spaces shown. So the probability of A is the outcomes are you can get an A, B, C, or D. And the probability of A is 1 out of 4, which as a decimal is like 1/4 of a dollar or 1/4. So 0.25, which as a percent is 25%. B is just as likely, and there's B, because these are equal spaces apart, and so B is 1 out of 4, which is 0.25, which is 25%. And C is 1/4, 0.25, 25%, and D is 1/4, 0.25, 25%. And all of these would add up to 100%. It's 100% certain that you're going to land on something. It's 25% certain that you're going to land on one of these. If it asked you what's the probability of landing on A or D, would be 25 plus 25, which is 50%. Okay, there are 5 equally likely outcomes on the spinner. List the outcomes. So I could get a yellow, red, green, blue, and let's call this purple. It's kind of hard to see. And now you're going to answer the following questions in your notes, and whenever you get to class, you're going to vote on these and be prepared to answer these questions and show that you watched the video and that you understand this. It says, find the probability of landing on red. Pick one of these. Find the probability of landing on blue or purple. Pick one of these. Find the probability of landing on any color but green. Pick one of these. So pause. You're answering 3 different questions with either A, B, C, D, or E. This one, this one, this one. So pause that you can do this. Okay, so the next set of questions has to do with the number cube. The number cube with sides labeled 1 through 6 is rolled. So it's a dice like this. And find each probability, write each answer as a fraction, decimal, and percent. So list the outcomes that you could get of a number cube. And then answer the question, what's the probability of rolling a 1 or a 2? What's the probability of rolling a 3, 4, 5, or 6? What's the probability of rolling less than 4? And your choices are here. You may use one answer more than once. And go ahead and put these in your notes, and you'll vote on this for class to make sure that you understand this concept of probability.